Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's session of Escape to Nature. My name is Nick, and I'm going to be your photo naturalist here today at Kariega Game Reserve in the Eastern Cape. And we've got another spectacular day ahead of us. Had quite a lot of cloud cover this morning. Didn't really see too many stars this morning when I was kind of getting ready and setting everything up. Had a thick blanket of cloud, but there has been a bit of a wind that's picked up. And I think that wind has definitely helped to blow a lot of the cloud cover away. And as you can see, the sun is out, we've got some blue skies, and the temperatures are starting to rise. These giraffes having a friendly little necking session. Looks like two younger males, not fully developed quite yet. And they've kind of waltzed their way over quite slowly over the sort of course of the past half hour or so, all the way from the far southeastern edge of this Scotia clearing towards the dam itself. They've only just got to the dam. Literally about 2 minutes before we started our escape to nature. So I haven't seen anybody physically having a drink quite yet, but it looks like that one male might be looking to change that for us. And I was following those males from one of the water holes that they enjoy all the way up to the zebra plains clearings. And there was a road that they were following, and it was a pretty straight road, but it was steep, and you could see they would kind of walk, but they'd stop every sort of 200 meters or so, and almost like not catching their breath, but you check, they kind of look around, and the mouth would be open, and you see they'd be panting quite heavily. And it is a lot more taxing on them, obviously, rather than having to just walk over flat areas. You know, you think of something like East Africa, or even more locally here, the low fault will be a lot more sort of flat than what we've got here. And you can see we have got some rhinos which have come down, but it's not like these rhinos are moving around possibly stomping on any blacksmith lapwing eggs or anything like that. This is Tundi that we can see here. And I think for her, she's got a similar tactic to the buffalo. In terms of the mud wallows drying up, I think she's just wanting to come down here to cool down. Remember, that'll be the two youngsters there next to her on the left, Sia and Mtetu. And I think for her, she's more than likely the last standing, just because she's more mature. She's probably wanting to make sure it is 100% safe before she does flop down into the water. And there's her first oxpecker. Look on her neck. I heard it calling. There's an oxpecker. We've been waiting all day for that. I think she's kind of just shifting position. I think she's readying herself to sit down. See how she's rotated herself around so that she can rest her head on the bank. She doesn't have to worry about lifting it up and down to breathe if she put her head in the deep end.
And what we have right now is a mating pair of brown-headed parrots. They really are quite fantastic, and unfortunately they are rather restricted to kind of natural or game reserve areas. So that being the Kruger Park down into northern Natal in southern Africa. And if you look at this bird right now, you'll notice just on the top of its wing there's a little yellow patch, which is quite cool. They actually are quite small parrots, smaller than African greys, which are probably the most trafficked bird in the world. Unfortunately so for them. And I mean, I love parrots myself, so I have a lot of time for these birds. and as I said, unfortunately for African grey parrots, they are very heavily trafficked. We do get a number of very big parrots here as well. So these being a little bit smaller than African greys, the parrots that we do get, they're about the same size as the grey-headed or the Cape parrot. The Cape parrot being the bird of the year this year. Also endemic to South Africa. Found throughout the kind of forested or really proper forested areas in South Africa. And a lovely black-headed oriole that is calling at the same time. And this baboon that's closest to us, you'll notice that she has a rather swollen behind, and she is clearly an estrus. This is the sign of a baboon female being in ovulation. You can hear that little bit of a chatter going amongst her and this young one here, but she clearly is, and we'll try to get a bit closer to her. This is clearly the sign. So when a baboon female is obviously in ovulation, ready to mate and copulate, it is what goes down. The private parts swell. There's a number of baboons around. There's probably some in the tree as well, and that's what's going on. A little bit of conversation. But what we're looking at right now is exactly that. So she is clearly ready to conceive, and that is more than likely what will probably happen. A number of males that probably are within this troop. Of course, there is a dominant male, but troops are also ruled by an oligarchy, a group of males that then preside over a troop. But it's also known that a troop can also have dispersing males, and males sometimes disperse between around 5 different troops within that 30-year life cycle of theirs. Look at that herd that's coming down here. It's quite fantastic. I wish we could get closer because it's awesome to be able to show you the difference. These impala that we're looking at are more arid adapted. It's kind of like when we see warthog in the east, so that being in, say, Djuma area. There's also a desert adapted warthog, and to be quite precise, there's probably warthog here that are quite desert adapted. Warthog being hindgut fermenters like zebra are pretty I'm trying to just figure out the best way to talk about this, but they are basically kind of restrained. Oh, look at that. And you can hear that little kind of guttural noise that they do make. But with regards to the desert adapted wildebeest or warthog, obviously reliance on water, and they are indicator species. So zebra and warthog are indicator species with regards to how much water might be in an area, and of course vegetation that does follow from that. And if there is a drought, the numbers of these animals kind of drop. So buffalo is another one, and I'm more talking about animals that are found further east of us, so that being in the Lowveld and the Kruger area. We tend to monitor warthog numbers, zebra numbers, and buffalo numbers with regards to how much water might be available and around. They might also dictate how far they have to walk for vegetation and food. And they are indicator species for exactly that reason, because they rely on water a lot more than other animals.
Anyway, back to our animals here on Amakhala, but sticking with mega herbivores. We've got this, it's a small group of elephants, but I think it might be part of the breeding herd, and it may even be one of the, or part of the group that's got the new little baby. As we're speaking of babies, potentially coming with Thandi, the elephants have produced a little one, and it's now, I think, going on to 4 days old. So I don't know if it's with these ones that are sleeping there. I think that is a olive tree that they're sleeping under. So I hope you take the advice of these animals and rest up nicely, have a nice siesta, and get to work when it's a little bit cooler. Folks, thanks for joining us. It's been wonderful having you. And my name is Ralph Kirsten, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.